For telling my estranged mother she gets nothing from my uncle's will after 15 years apart? My name is Sabrina Myers. I am 28 years old, and when I was 13 my parents left me in a hospital waiting room and never came back. Last week, those same parents showed up at a lawyer's office dressed in their Sunday best. They were absolutely certain they were about to become rich because my uncle, Benedict Myers, had passed away. But as the lawyer, Mr. Richard Chun, began to read from the thick legal document, my mother's confident smile faded like morning fog over a lake. And when he reached the part about the distribution of assets, my mother let out a cry so sharp that the building's security guard came to check on the commotion. Her face turned bright red, then pale white, then red again. She looked as if she might collapse right there on the expensive carpet. I grew up in a modest rental house in a suburb outside of Houston, Texas. My father, Thomas Myers, worked as a local freight driver. He was the kind of man who never challenged my mother on anything. My mother, Laura, was a receptionist at a dental practice. She managed our home like a CEO running a tight ship, with every decision being final. My older sister, Natalie, was 16 when I was 13. She had vibrant red hair, green eyes, and our mother's assertive personality. Everyone remarked that Natalie was Laura's spitting image, a compliment my mother adored. I, on the other hand, resembled my father's younger sister, who had passed away young. Dark hair, dark eyes, and a quiet disposition. My mother never called me ugly, but she never called me pretty either. She simply treated me as if I were a piece of furniture, mostly invisible. The disparity was evident in everything. When Natalie turned 16, my mother threw her a massive Sweet 16 party with 30 of her friends, a hired DJ, and a custom cake shaped like a tiara. For my 13th birthday just 2 months later, we had leftover pizza from the night before, and my mother gave me a greeting card with no money inside. Just the card. I did not fully grasp the extent of the situation until I was 11. That was when I discovered Natalie had a college fund with $8,000 in it, money our parents had been contributing to since she was born. I asked my mother if I had one too. She laughed. It was a cold, dismissive sound. Natalie is going to be a doctor or a lawyer, she said. You will probably just get married or something. You do not need a college fund for that. In that moment I understood. I was not part of their plan. I was an afterthought, an obligation taking up space, consuming resources they wished they could allocate to Natalie. Everything shifted in May of 2010. I entered the state science fair without telling anyone. It was a major competition, with students from over 100 high schools across Texas participating. The grand prize was a full scholarship to a prestigious summer STEM program at a major university. Room, board, tuition, and all materials were covered. The prize was valued at $6,000. On May 15th, I won first place. Out of 500 competitors, I was number 1. For a single glorious day, I felt an immense sense of pride. Then, Natalie learned about an elite cheerleading camp in Florida. Her coach insisted it was a crucial step for getting a college athletic scholarship. It was a 3-week program and it was not free. The cost was $5,500. That evening, my mother made her executive decision. Sabrina, you are not going to that science camp. We will use the scholarship money for Natalie's cheerleading camp. I stared at her, completely stunned. You cannot use my scholarship for Natalie. It is awarded in my name. It is for me. My mother's expression hardened. Do not take that tone with me. In this house, what is yours is ours, and we decide what is best for the family. My voice trembled, but I stood my ground. I earned it. It is mine. My mother rose from the dinner table, her voice dropping to an icy whisper. If you cannot make a small sacrifice for your sister, then you are no longer a daughter of mine. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Across the table, Natalie shot me a triumphant smirk. I thought my mother was just angry that she did not truly mean it. 3 days later, I returned home from school to find my clothes, my books, my childhood stuffed animals, everything I owned, packed into large black trash bags on the curb in front of our house. My mother stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. What is going on? I asked, my heart pounding. I called your Uncle Benedict, she said flatly. He is driving down from Colorado. You are going to live with him now. I do not want you in this house anymore. You are too selfish to be part of this family. I stood there paralyzed by shock. Over her shoulder, I could see my father on the couch, watching television, not even glancing in my direction. Natalie was in her room with the door closed, music blaring. She was completely indifferent to the fact that her younger sister was being discarded like yesterday's garbage. I sat on those bags from 3:30 in the afternoon until 10 o'clock at night. 6.5 hours. My mother went back inside after 5 minutes and locked the front door. Not a single neighbor who walked or drove by stopped to ask if I was okay. They averted their eyes, pretending not to see me. Uncle Benedict lived 8 hours away in Colorado. He drove through the night to reach me. When his car finally pulled up to the curb, I was crying so hard I could barely breathe. He jumped out, ran to my side, and enveloped me in the most secure hug I had ever known. "You are safe now," he whispered into my hair. "You are safe. You are coming home with me." As we drove away into the darkness, I watched our rental house shrink and disappear in the side view mirror. I did not know it then, but before my uncle's arrival, my mother had signed legal papers. Documents that formally terminated her parental rights. Documents that stated she no longer wanted to be my mother. I was just a terrified 13-year-old girl who believed she had done something unforgivably wrong. It would take me 15 years to learn the whole truth, and when I did, I would shatter my mother's dreams completely. Uncle Benedict's house in a suburb of Denver was like a mansion compared to our cramped Texas home. It had a sprawling backyard, a gourmet kitchen with a granite island, and he gave me the largest guest bedroom upstairs. But the house itself was not what mattered. What mattered was that, for the first time, someone truly wanted me. Uncle Benedict owned a successful construction company that built custom homes and commercial properties throughout Colorado. He had started with nothing, working 3 jobs to save enough capital to launch his own business. By 2010, his company was worth millions. He had never married or had children. When I arrived on his doorstep with nothing but trash bags filled with my belongings, he did not see me as a burden. He saw me as his daughter. Over the next 4 years, I flourished. I dedicated myself to my studies with a newfound focus. I graduated from high school in 2014 as the class valedictorian with a perfect 4.0 grade point average. The state university offered me a full academic scholarship to study civil engineering. By 2018, I had my bachelor's degree, graduating at the top of my class. Uncle Benedict had hired me as an intern at his company while I was still in college. I absorbed everything I could: how to read blueprints, manage construction crews, and handle complex budgets and contracts. In 2020, he promoted me to Vice President of Operations. By 2022, I was effectively managing half of the company's projects. On my birthday that year, I was overseeing projects with a combined value of $30 million. Uncle Benedict took me to a nice steakhouse that night to celebrate. Just the two of us. "Sabrina," he said, his voice serious but warm, "you need to know something. You are in my will. Everything I have built will be yours, because you are not just my niece. You are my daughter, the only child I will ever have." I began to cry right there at the table. In 15 years, my biological family reached out to me 4 times. Each time they wanted something. They never once asked if I was happy or doing well. The first contact was in 2011. My mother called Uncle Benedict asking for $10,000. My father had been in an accident with his truck and had lost his job. Uncle Benedict refused. The second contact was in 2015. Natalie mailed me a high school graduation announcement. There was no personal note, no invitation to the ceremony, just the formal announcement with her picture. She was clearly expecting a gift. I threw it in the trash. The third contact came in 2019. My mother sent me a friend request on social media with a private message: "We should reconnect. Family is so important." I blocked her account. The fourth contact was in 2023. My father sent an email stating that my mother had been diagnosed with diabetes, and they were struggling with medical bills. Surely Benedict could spare some money for his family, he wrote. I deleted it without a response. The anger had long since faded, replaced by a quiet indifference. They were strangers to me who happened to share some of my DNA. Then, in January of 2025, Uncle Benedict suffered a major heart attack. He survived, but his doctor informed us that his heart was severely damaged. He had at most 6 months to live. He had his lawyer update his will in February. He passed away on March 15, 2025, peacefully in his own home, with me holding his hand. 5 days after the funeral, my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number from Texas. Sabrina, it is your mother. I was tempted to hang up. What do you want, Laura? It is Mom. She corrected me automatically. I heard about Benedict. I am so sorry for your loss. Listen, we received a notice about a will reading next week. As his next of kin, we have a right to be present. We are coming. My blood ran cold. You are not family. You signed papers to give me away, remember? That was a long time ago. Blood is thicker than water, Sabrina. We will see you on Tuesday. She hung up before I could reply. I immediately called Mr. Chun, Uncle Benedict's attorney. He confirmed my fears. They have already filed a formal challenge to the will. They have retained counsel. Their petition claims you exerted undue influence over Benedict. They are demanding 50% of the estate. I smiled a grim, determined smile. Let them come, I said. I want them to be there. I want them to hear every single word. The reading of the will was held in Mr. Chin's conference room on the 40th floor of a downtown Denver skyscraper. It had floor-to-ceiling windows with a breathtaking view of the mountains. I arrived early, dressed in a black business suit, feeling composed and professional. At precisely 2 o'clock, the elevator doors opened. My mother emerged, wearing an expensive-looking black dress and a string of pearls. My father was beside her in a suit that did not quite fit. Natalie was dressed in designer clothes I knew were beyond her means, and their lawyer, Mr. Harold Davis, carried a polished leather briefcase. My mother strode into the room as if she owned it. She saw me and her face lit up with a saccharine smile. Sabrina, darling, it has been too long. She moved to embrace me. I took a deliberate step back. Do not touch me. Her smile faltered. Mr. Chun gestured for them to take seats along the wall. The main conference table is reserved for the primary beneficiaries. My mother's expression soured. She had clearly expected a seat of honor, not to be relegated to the audience. Mr. Chun began to read. This is the last will and testament of Benedict Arthur Myers. First, I wish to clarify why certain individuals have been expressly excluded from this will. My mother leaned forward in her chair, her anticipation palpable. On June 1, 2010, my brother, Thomas Myers, and his wife, Laura Myers, legally relinquished their parental rights over their daughter, Sabrina. They signed official court documents permanently terminating their connection to her. I legally adopted Sabrina in 2012. She is, in the eyes of the law and in my heart, my daughter. My mother gasped audibly. Furthermore, Mr. Chun continued, his voice steady, Thomas borrowed $50,000 from me in 2005 for a down payment on a house, a loan he never made a single payment on. He is not a man of his word. My father's face turned a deep shade of crimson. Therefore, I leave Thomas and Laura Myers absolutely nothing. Not 1 cent, not a piece of property, nothing. My mother shot to her feet. This is absurd. He cannot just disinherit his own family. Please be seated, Mrs. Myers, Mr. Chun commanded. Now, he went on, to my beloved daughter Sabrina Myers I bequeath my entire estate. This includes all real estate holdings, all financial accounts, all stocks, bonds, and all personal and business assets. The total estimated value of the estate is $47 million. The room fell completely silent. My mother's face cycled through shades of red, white, and a sickly green. She looked as though she was about to be ill. $47 million, she screamed, her voice cracking. This is fraud. She manipulated him. She turned him against us. I rose slowly and turned to face her. But Laura, you threw me out with the trash when I was 13. You signed legal documents giving me away. You made a choice. Every single consequence you are facing right now is a direct result of that choice. I am your mother. She shrieked. No, I said, my voice as cold as ice. You were my mother. Then you signed a piece of paper saying you did not want that title anymore. You do not get to come back 15 years later because there is money on the table. Natalie began to sob. This is not fair. You are supposed to take care of your family. You stood by and watched them put me on the curb. I told her, my gaze unwavering. You did nothing. You are not my sister. Mr. Chun handed me a sealed envelope. Benedict left a personal letter for you. With trembling hands, I opened it. My dearest Sabrina, if you are reading this, it means they showed up, just as I suspected they would. Greedy, entitled, and ultimately empty-handed. Do not feel an ounce of guilt. You owe them nothing. You survived them. You thrived in spite of them. This inheritance is not a gift. It is what you earned by refusing to let their cruelty define you. I am so incredibly proud of the woman you have become. Forever your dad, Benedict. Tears were streaming down my face now. My mother made one last desperate appeal. Sabrina, please. We made terrible mistakes. We were young and did not know what we were doing. We need this money. We have nothing. I looked at her, truly seeing her for the first time in years. You had a daughter who adored you, who would have done anything for a single word of your approval. And you threw her away. You chose convenience and your preferred child over your other one. Now you have exactly what you deserve. Nothing. Their lawyer, Mr. Davis, attempted to argue, but Mr. Chun calmly presented him with certified copies of the termination of parental rights and the final adoption decree. He also had emails and signed affidavits proving Benedict was of sound mind and body when he last amended his will. Their case was dead on arrival. As they were being escorted out, my mother turned for a final word. You will regret this, Sabrina. Family is everything. You will end up all alone. I smiled, a genuine, peaceful smile. I would rather be alone than be with people who make me feel worthless. I have friends who are my family. I have a legacy to uphold. I have everything that matters. What do you have? She had no answer. They left, and I have never seen or heard from them again. 6 months later, I used a portion of the estate to establish the Benedict Myers Scholarship Fund, dedicated to helping children from foster care and unstable home environments. Kids whose families had given up on them. Last year, we awarded 20 full college scholarships. This year, we are on track to award 30. That is my story. My parents thought abandoning me would be the end of my story. Instead, it was the beginning. They believed that returning 15 years later would make them wealthy. Instead, they walked away with nothing but their own shame. Here is what I have learned. The people who cause you the most pain will often reappear when they perceive you have something they want. But you hold the power. You get to decide whether to open that door. You get to decide who earns a place in your life. And sometimes the best closure is not revenge, but building a life so full and successful that they are forced to watch you shine from the darkness they created for themselves. Comment. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I hope this story reminds you that your worth is never determined by someone else's inability to see it. Setting boundaries is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of self-preservation. We cannot control the actions of others, but we are always in charge of our own healing and our responses. Sometimes the family that chooses you can offer more love than the one you were born into. True strength is found when we transform our own pain into a source of kindness for someone else. Choosing your peace over toxic connections is one of the most courageous decisions you can ever make. Remember to be kind to yourself on your journey. You deserve a life filled with respect, support, and genuine happiness. You have the power to write your own beautiful ending, no matter what your beginning looked like. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.